Good evening, guys, and welcome to Decrypted. My name is Josh. And right now, this Pelosi story isn't all adding up. I've been digging through all the social medias and trying to figure out things that the other main media is not talking about. And right now, we wish Mr. Pelosi a full recovery, even though I know they're saying he's going to. I hope everything works out better than they expect. So, in the Pelosi attack between David Depape and Paul, listening to the police report from the San Francisco department doesn't really make all that much sense. At 2:27, police were dispatched for a well-being check. A well-being check, isn't that when someone calls to go check on somebody? I don't really understand. And when you wonder who called the police, they don't tell you. We're going to play that video, just a short snippet of it. But then reports are saying that Mr. Pelosi called the police with the phone in his pocket, and they just came out to see who was actually there, or why the phone was called, or the police were called. And people also said that Depape let him go to the restroom, and then he called the police from the restroom. None of that shit makes sense. So let's first start out with this quick little police video.
Okay, ready? All right, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us here today. I am Chief BellScott of the San Francisco Police Department. I'm joined by our District Attorney, Brooke Jenkins, to my right, and I have our Assistant Chief of Operations, Chief David Lazar, and our Deputy Chief of Investigations, Raj Vaswani, with me as well. So I want to start off by saying thank you again for being here, and I want to give you an update, as we said we would, given as much as we can talk about at this moment. And let me start off by saying this is still a coordinated and collaborative effort between the San Francisco Police Department, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the U.S. Capitol Police, and our San Francisco District Attorney's Office led by DA Brooke Jenkins. At this time, the San Francisco Police Department is still the lead investigating agency. Each agency is evaluating the facts that flow from this investigation and evaluating those facts within their respective authorities to take the appropriate action. First, I'd like to provide a little more detail of what transpired this morning when the officers arrived at the scene. We've gotten a lot of questions. We want to clarify some things. There are just a lot of theories and speculation out there, so I will provide the detail I can, but please understand that this is an ongoing and active investigation, and there's a lot that we still need to dig into. So when the officers arrived and knocked on the front door of the residence this morning, the door was opened by someone inside, and the officers observed through the open door Mr. Pelosi and the suspect, Mr. Depape, inside the entryway of the home. At this time, the officers remained outside of the threshold of the home, and they observed Mr. Pelosi and Mr. Depape each with one hand on a single hammer. There was one hammer that the officer observed. Officers, while still outside of the doorway threshold, gave commands to both men to drop the hammer. Mr. Depape immediately pulled the hammer away from Mr. Pelosi and violently attacked him with the hammer. The officers immediately entered, tackled the suspect, disarmed him, took the hammer away from him, and took the suspect, Mr. Depape, into custody. They requested emergency backup, and they rendered medical aid. I can confirm that Mr. Depape forced entry into a rear door at the rear of the Pelosi home. And I'd like to reemphasize the quick response and actions of our officers, Officer Kobe Wilmus, Officer Kyle Cagney, and Sergeant Edmund Huang. Also, I want to reemphasize and thank our dispatcher, Heather Grimes, for her intuition, her quick thinking. She had to interpret what she was being told. And based on her experience and her intuition, she basically figured out that there was something more to this incident than what she was being told. Her actions, in my opinion, resulted in both a higher priority dispatch and a faster police response. I think this was life-saving. Lastly, I want to thank our firefighters and paramedics from the San Francisco Fire Department also for a quick response and transporting Mr. Pelosi for medical assistance at the hospital. We've gotten a lot of questions about security. First of all, I want to say that the U.S. Capitol Police is responsible for protection of Speaker Pelosi and her family. The San Francisco Police Department will assist in any way we can. I've been in contact with Chief Tom Menger of the U.S. Capitol Police. We've been in contact with his investigators and at least one of his chiefs, and we are working collaboratively. Any questions about the security of the Pelosi home should be referred to the U.S. Capitol Police. That is their responsibility, and I would ask that you refer any questions about security to them. I won't be able to answer any of those questions. We also have received questions about how many times Mr. Pelosi was struck, and there's a lot of speculation out there. What we know is he was struck at least one time. We're going through our evidence, and when we have a definitive answer, we can release that. But right now, we don't. So we know he was struck at least one time, and that's what we know. We also know, based on our investigation at this point, that this was not a random act. This was intentional. And it's wrong. Our elected officials are here to do the business of their cities, their counties, their states, and this nation. Their families don't sign up for this to be harmed. And it is wrong. And everybody should be disgusted about what happened this morning. With that, we will take any questions, and we will only answer what we can answer.
Question for you. We're seeing some sort of law enforcement activity at the suspect's home in Berkeley. Can you clarify what may be going on there in terms of any search warrants? Are search warrants going to be put out for his phone? Can you just update that situation?
Well, this investigation, there's a lot of moving parts. We are writing search warrants, and as we learn more, we may have to write more search warrants. That's about all I can say. I don't have any results, and our investigators have been on this since the wee hours of the morning, and they're still on it. So we're going to do everything we can to uncover every piece of evidence that we can to hold this person accountable.
So they have been into the home?
I'm not sure that they've been into the home at this point, but I do know that we have written search warrants, and that work is ongoing.
Right here. Is the suspect on a 5150 hold, or are they in jail?
Well, I can't. The suspect is still in the hospital. Definitely, I cannot release, and it's not appropriate for me to release any of the suspect's medical information, but the suspect is still in the hospital. But let me say this. We intend to book the suspect. Whether it's in absentia or whether it's in person, he will be booked for felony charges.
Mm-hmm. And you can't confirm whether or not he's on 5150?
I cannot confirm anything about this person's medical condition.
Last question right up here.
Yeah, you say this wasn't a random act. What can you say about it? Do you think this was politically motivated?
We are not at the point where we can say what the motive is publicly, but we do know this was intentional. It is not random. We know that. We know that.
Right.
So,
just about the dispatcher, can you say anything about how they needed to interpret the call, why you couldn't speak plainly?
well, what I can say is that dispatchers have to report what's being told to them. And when you have an experienced dispatcher with good instincts, they learn how to read between the lines, but they have to report what's being told. They can't report anything other than what's being told. She knew something more was going on just in her heart and her intuition, just with her experience. And that calls for a higher priority than this type of call normally receives. I mean, this was a well-being check. And she just knew there was more to it. So she alerted our officers. She went that extra step. And because of that, they dispatched it at a higher priority than this type of call normally is. And that led to a quicker response.
Okay, that's it for right now. Thank you. We're all done. Thank you very much.
Chief, how did he manage to call 911?
He was able to call 911. So he was the caller. He was able to call 911, and dispatch kind of took it from there and read between the lines. So just heroic going all the way around.
Was he speaking in a code, sort of the assailant?
So that was not the original video that Chief BellScott released right after the attack, because there were a lot more questions in the first one that were not answered. He did clarify the whole hammer situation, that he said they both were holding a hammer. But then in that report, which was the first time I listened to it, why was the front door open? And why were they just able to look through it? And then it was just really bizarre how they didn't run in there and try to stop both of them right away, but whatever. So as reported, San Francisco Police Department found the suspect, 42-year-old David Depape, who allegedly assaulted Mr. Pelosi, which obviously it sounds like they know he assaulted him. But no one's going to mention that Mr. Depape is actually an illegal alien from Canada. Why is the media not talking about this? I can't really find anything on Mr. Depape. They scrubbed his whole existence off of the internet. But allegedly, Depape has a history of felony charges and other things, and he should have been deported. This should have never happened. But right now, he's facing a homicide, attempted homicide, assault with a deadly weapon, burglary, and then elderly abuse, which elderly abuse is a whole another weird situation. Isn't that usually when you take advantage of an old person? But I don't know about that either. So luckily, Paul is going to make a full recovery, and it is unfortunate that this all happened, and this should be completely condemned on both sides. The same way the right always condemns violence, but the left doesn't, which is really bizarre. And I usually watch Jesse Waters to find out all my information in more detail, but he was still lacking a lot of stuff, and we'll get into the different children and other things in a second. But Jesse said something that was really clever. He said, so this guy was a mentally ill, homeless, nudist, illegal alien druggie that should have been deported, and that's true. They also said that Mr. Depape wanted to tie up Paul and then wait for Nancy. But why would he let Paul go use the restroom? Oh, just go pee so you're more comfortable before this. That's weird. When was he yelling Nancy? Did the police hear him yelling Nancy? Where's his body cam? Where's his security cam? Where's everything? And now the media is all saying this is all right conspiracy related to January 6th. This is just a horrible act. Who knows what this man was doing? They said he had a drug problem. His baby mama seems to love psychedelics. And all his social media is scrubbed, so who knows what he was. They say that he just started randomly posting all of this QAnon and election conspiracy stuff recently since August of 2022, but it's been a ghost for the last 10 years before that. I have no idea. None of this makes sense. One of Depape's associates said that she worked with Depape for a few months selling and making hemp bracelets, living in a storage shed in the Berkeley area. But then she said she had to quit talking to him, and then there was someone that he was house sitting for some reason, which I would never let a homeless person house sit for my house. But then she had to lose contact with him. Just more pieces that people need to figure out. Another question is, how fast was the response time? Can we see the body cam? And this wellness check situation that Chief BellScott was talking about. We're going to have to listen to that dispatch to understand what he's actually talking about, and they need to release that. So if I did a crime like this just to a random civilian, would all of my social media and all my blogs just be scrubbed and deleted? But there is one thing I could find. It's a lady named Gypsy Taub. She's a very big activist in a nudist group, has a couple of different charges and other things going on, allegedly. But he was also part of the nudist protesters and liked to go to Burning Man. And this is all just a lot of liberal things. So I don't know where all this right-wing stuff comes from. But so this lady has 3 children allegedly with Mr. Depape. And if you go through her Facebook, there's all kinds of conspiracy theories about Donald Trump and how to fight Donald Trump, which really is bizarre because I would not hang out with a total libtard if I was a conservative. Our values just don't match up, and if we just go through her different things, she's a complete hater of Trump. And she even had a thing where they were switching votes to Republican for the election, which, that kind of sounds like Trump's whole conspiracy theory too. So that's it. I hope we have a lot of questions that need answered, and hopefully we'll get them soon. Bye, guys.